Today, I would like to share how I took a listing virtually last week, got the contract back, signed on Saturday. It's active on the market as we speak, and how I did it 100% virtually. I'm going to walk you through from initial contact to the listing. And this is the owner of the property. She wasn't in my database. It's not a past client, nothing. It could not have been a colder lead. And in a matter of 48 hours, I went from cold contact, cold outreach, cold contact to signed listing agreement. And I will walk through that entire process, what strategy and technology I used to make all of that happen. And then I would love to brainstorm and mastermind how you may apply that to your own business. Full transparency, it was on a parcel of land, a piece of vacant land. It's something that I've done a lot of land deals myself as a principal. I've listed and sold a lot of them as well. And also, for those of you thinking maybe you just checked out because you said, oh, this is vacant land, I'm not interested in working that. I had a settlement 3 weeks ago on a ranch house in Perry County, just north of me, where I never was on the inside of the house, not once, and I met the seller at settlement. Honestly, I wouldn't have even had to go to settlement, but I figured I might as well meet him once during the process. And we can get into how all of that happened as well, if you're curious on that. Before I do that, I have some housekeeping items that I want to knock out. I want to tie together some loose ends and refer back to some of the topics that we've been talking about recently. Housekeeping item number one, getting towards I don't even want to say this, but we're getting later in the summer. My kids go back to school next week, and more proactively building out our schedule of upcoming sessions here. So I know the next 3 weeks are as follows. Next week, we are going to be talking about finding cash buyers and investor buyers in your market. And I'll have a special guest for that. I'll share some of the things that I've done recently for that. And the reason why I think that's a relevant topic, at least for myself right now, is in my market, as we get into September, October, November, December, the traditional home buyer, in a lot of cases, pauses. School's starting, things are busy, it's the fall rush. And so I will be looking to do more deals with investor buyers who are looking for a good deal, always willing to offer if the numbers make sense. So for me, it's a way to keep my pipeline full and my escrows stacked as high as possible. And there will be some other takeaways there if you're more looking for the traditional retail buyer, especially for those that are maybe interested in identifying those. I think that will be helpful and relevant. The week after that, we are going to cover something that was recommended last week by Celeste, which is using technology and tools like Zapier to automate certain processes to save yourself some time, energy, and effort, etc. And then 3 weeks after, so that would be 2 weeks from now. 3 weeks from now, I have my guy Ryan Hartman, co-founder of Thanks, coming on to share a new service they are offering to build a pipeline of the most likely sellers in you can pick whatever. You could pick your home address, you could pick your office address, or just an address that you want to do more business around. And as much as you can, set it and forget it, at least building out the pipeline part of it so that you can focus on the people that are responding or that are demonstrating through their behavior might be open to an offer or to listing the property, et cetera, et cetera. So some fun stuff coming the next few weeks for sure. I want to highlight or double back on something that we talked about last week. If you missed last week's session, it was 5 surefire, set it and forget it ways to sell more homes in the next 90 days. And for me, I think that's some of the most valuable things that you should be doing in your business if you're serious about the business and you really want to build your pipeline deep. You want to add to your database. You want to make sure that you're getting the most opportunities from your database, that you're not losing past clients or sphere of influence to other agents in your market who maybe are a little bit more proactive, or maybe they're implementing some of the strategies that we talked about. One in particular we talked about was sending a monthly postcard newsletter to your database. I sent this to myself, so I had one to actually show. In a perfect world, I would have had it last week to show you. The front of the card, in my case, is the Google Map view. For whatever reason, our neighborhood, we don't have Google Street View images. I don't know why. I'm not in that rural of an area where I live. Like, my area, generally speaking, is more rural than maybe some of you, but our neighborhood isn't really, but it's not. If there is a street view, that will be what's on the front. And talk about a pattern interrupt. When someone gets a postcard, a 6x9 postcard in their mailbox, and it's got their property on it, they're going to read it, right? Like, you've got their attention. The front of the card, monthly market update for Josh and Pam Shanley. Scan the QR code to see what street address might sell for today. The QR code goes to a seller dashboard that they don't have to opt in for. They don't have to do anything. They immediately, and I'll say immediately, but it takes a couple seconds to load. It's a dashboard with their information about their property, 4 different unique home value estimates and cash offer options for them. And, if you're not using the platform, I've had several people this week, several other agents, Bill, Assad, James, even switching over to my enterprise version of iList, which you can get a free 30-day trial. And after the 30-day trial, it's only $77 per month. You should check that out and give this a whirl. That's the front of the card. The back of the card, here's to me the magic of this. The back of the card is specific, custom, congruent, and relevant to the recipient, meaning the information on here, I live in Enola. There is market data specific for Enola here. I'm also sending these cards to people that have Mechanicsburg addresses, Carlisle addresses, Campville addresses, Harrisburg addresses, etc. That information is custom to them. We're using ChatGPT and other AI, whatever, to make it relevant and specifically custom to them. And it's relevant in other ways. It's the August newsletter, etc.
So, Josh, you're building it in iList and mailing it out of
No.
Thanks.io?
So iList is just where people are going to. This is all built in Thanks.io. And here's the punchline to this. I did this for James yesterday. I set this up for James yesterday. All James did was update his list. So he has 70 contacts that he wants to send this newsletter to. That's all he did. And I'm not exaggerating, it took me less than 3 minutes to set it up so that list of 70 will get a new, fresh postcard like this once a month for the next 12 months. Actually, once a month forever, until he either removes the person from the campaign or pauses the campaign, which you can do incredibly easily, literally just with the click of a mouse. It is so easy to set this up. The hard work is figuring out who do you want to send it to. Once you've got that, all you have to do is, there are 2 ways you can get help with that. Number 1, Thanks.io has what they call their mail room, which is open daily. It's a Zoom. And if you log into your account, it's right there. I'll show in a minute what it looks like. Or just get with me. And literally all James did was confirm, I got my mailing list in there. Here's my login. And I set it up. Okay. So easy peasy. I'm happy to help with that. If you want to use the Thanks team, let me share my screen here. Here's what that looks like.
Julian just asked, what would the cost be?
So I'm sending 5x7, or I'm sorry, 6x9, 6x9. It's up to you. If you want to send the smaller one, I would send the bigger one. Okay. These are people that know and trust you. You want to make that impression. I would send the bigger one. I have something turned on that they call like print protect or something like that. It means the quality of them is a little bit better. And I have the business account, so that's $49 per month. With the business account, it's $1.07 per postcard. So what that means for me right now, I have 180, I think, on my list that are getting those. 12 months times 180, whatever that, I don't know what the math is on that. The other way of looking at it is it's just, let's call it $13 per year. And I look at it as though it's insurance. This is insurance against those people that would do business with me, as long as they don't forget, will do business with me, because I'm reminding them once a month physically in their mailbox, right? Because they might even be getting things digitally from me. They're getting bombarded digitally by everybody. Not just in real estate, just like we're barraged digitally with marketing messages. I don't get much direct mail anymore. So this stands out in the mailbox. And another way I know that it's working is already the first set of 6 have landed in mailboxes, and 2 of those first 6 already scanned the QR code on my top 150. Anyway, if you log into your account, looks like you can schedule to get live help. I don't see the mailroom link in here anymore, so I'm not sure if that's something that they changed and Ryan didn't let me know. But you can schedule here or just schedule with me. Just reach out to me, call, text, email, schedule a time at growwithjosh.com/20, and we can get that all set up for you and literally set it and forget it. My campaign is right here, and my top 150 right here. I've got 180 recipients, and it's set to staggered send, and it'll send them one of those per month, 12 times a year, and each one is different and unique. Now, the front will remain the same unless I tweak it, because I can tweak it on the fly, and the back will change depending on the month and what's going on. There you have it. So that was number 1. Number 2 thing that I wanted to, this is relevant to the actual topic today. And so I thought I would tee it up or make this point before we get into me actually walking through this taking of a listing virtually. When people who are considering using you and your services, when they go and Google you, what do they see? And if you don't know, you need to know. And you need to be more proactive about controlling that narrative, because in particular, if you have aspirations of getting deals and doing business with more than just these people, you better have that dialed in. You better have your information current, updated, relevant, etc. And I'll tie this back to one of the topics last week. You probably want to have a Google PPC ad for when people Google you as well, because that's one. You don't have a ton of direct control over what shows up in the Google organic search if someone Googles your name, but you do if you have a PPC ad, a Google search PPC ad running. And what brought that to the surface for me is, or why I was reminded of that very recently, and why it's relevant to this topic that I'm going to share today, the case study that I want to walk through. I think, almost assuredly going to be taking 2 more listings from one client using exactly what I'm going to share with you today as well. And the reason that is happening, beyond the actual action steps that I'm going to share, is that when he went and Googled me, he was impressed. How do I know that? Because he literally told me that. So I reached out to him cold. He raised his hand. I sent him a proposal. He Googled me and was so impressed that the property I was reaching out to him on, he was not necessarily thinking about selling. He was thinking about selling, but it wasn't like real close. But he is a multifamily property that he was close to signing with another listing agent, which I had no idea about. And when I talked to him yesterday, I think I'm probably going to give that one to you as well, because I don't know about this other lady. You seem awesome. You seem like you're on top of it. And when I went and Googled you, I was able to confirm that. Point is, so if you do nothing else from what you get here today, Google yourself after this. It's like a weird phrase, but type your name, real estate, realtor, realty, etc., into Google and see what comes up. And if you don't like what you need to create a plan to change that. Because
so right
go ahead,
now,
Joan.
so I've been looking at that. I am still showing with HomeSmart and so I need to clean this up. How does one go about doing that? Can you do a training on that? Can you direct me to somebody that I can pay to do that?
Wonderful question. So I'll address it briefly here, and then
Mhm.
you and I, maybe we get together on a Zoom, and I'm going to unabashedly promote for a second here. Joan recently joined my EXP organization, our EXP organization, James as well. And we've been she's been like crazy taking action. Signed a listing yesterday, signed a buyer yesterday, and is
Not
implementing
signed.
like crazy.
That signed, committed.
Committed.
I have a question on
Regardless,
that.
you picked up
I have a question on that too.
Okay, you picked up 2 clients yesterday, so kudos. My point is, if you want to chat about that and how you can partner with us and what that might look like, get back with one or all 3 of us, and we'd be happy to chat. And you can get the perspective from A, someone who has recently come on board, B, someone who's been on board for a few years, and C, or 3, someone who's been with EXP since 2019 and will never leave. Anyway, Joan, a question on the yesterday, and then I'll tie in the profiles and then get to the actual topic at hand.
Yesterday, the listing. So she's listing a house, buying a house. She was working with another agent, didn't have a signed agency. And we're going to go look at houses Friday. I will get a signed buyer's agency. She's going to do a bridge loan. And so I have always just signed a listing agreement saying that when she's under contract, we'll put her home on the market. But I don't think that's proper protocol. I'm finding out. I'm questioning whether I can do that because we have so many days to put something in the MLS. Or can I do it as a private listing?
I'm confused. I'm sorry. I'm not following what the actual question is.
Seller owns a house.
Yep. And they want to buy.
Right.
You're trying to determine which domino in which order.
She's going to do a bridge loan
Okay.
so that we can go buy the house,
Yep.
then list hers. I want
Okay.
the buyer's agency and the seller's agency signed ASAP and locked.
Sure. Sure. Yep.
In our MLS, when we sign a listing agreement, they have to be in the MLS within so many days. How do I
Well, you can put whatever date you want in the list. Here's what I would do, just based upon what you shared real quick. I would get a listing agreement signed with the date in the future. And then when you actually determine exactly when you're going to do that, just change that date and have her initial it. That's my immediate response. You're not going to, given that scenario, if it were me, I wouldn't do anything with it in the MLS until we know for sure when we want to list it. But that doesn't preclude you for getting her commitment in writing to you. In other words, you don't have to note it. You can get that signed, put whatever date you want, which kind of locks that commitment into you. Obviously, you're going to pick a date that's your best guess as to what makes sense based upon her time frame and all of that. But that's the way I would approach it.
That's how
My
I've done it in the
immediate
past.
reaction.
I think I'll reach out to EXP broker because
Yeah.
Colorado and the Colorado MLS has gotten a little goofy on some things. Wouldn't you agree, James? And I
Yeah.
just want to make sure. What?
Yeah, just
And
call
so I
Art
just-
Colorado. Yeah, you should be fine. You can even put TBD in there for your start date.
Okay, great. Thanks, guys. Sorry for that side.
All good. All
But
good.
that's why I'm holding up signing because I needed to know how to do that properly.
Right on. Okay. Topic at hand. Virtual listing. 22 minutes of housekeeping and intro. Sorry, all.
Sorry.
No, Joe, that was way more me than you. 1000%. Okay, let me tee this up, and then I'm going to share my screen, and I'm going to talk through the process and just make notes as to what I did, and I'll pull up anything that may be relevant to this process as we go along. Last week, I set up cold outreach to a targeted list of potential sellers. The process I used is the exact process that was documented and outlined a few weeks ago on here in a session that you can't find on YouTube because YouTube said you can't show everyone, you can't show all these people's private contact information, because I showed exactly where I go build the list, how I skip trace the list, how I clean the list, et cetera, et cetera. So you can't find it on YouTube, but you can find it in our free school community. If you go to, I think if you go to growwithjosh.com/LLL, I'll put the direct link in the chat for those of you that are live. But if you go to growwithjosh.com/LLL, like 3 L's, I believe it'll forward you to that. It's just at theschool.com, SKOOL.com. It's listings-leads-leverage-7797 for some reason. I wasn't able to change that. Anyway, if you go there, if you go there and you go to classrooms or classroom and you go to replays, it is the July 9th replay, prospecting tired landlords. Now, the audience that I was prospecting in this example that I'm going to walk you through is not tired landlords, but it doesn't matter. The process that I walk you through here is the same. I go and build a targeted list of people that I'm going to do cold outreach to get hand raisers who might be open to an offer or to selling their property, okay? Quick side note, I've been working on this. I would love some feedback, not here, but maybe after the fact or maybe during Q&A. I've been trying to really boil down the only ways that you can get clients and sell more homes, like into their purest form. So for me, what I've come up with is your existing database, which is a combination of people you've met and they know and trust you, and people who you haven't yet, right? So there's met, not met. That's an old KW thing, I think, in your existing database. Then there's paid marketing to generate inbound lead. For example, I've talked a number of times over the last few months about some vendors that I'm using, and I'm paying them money for them to give me leads who are interested in a cash offer on their home. So that's paid. And then there's outbound, cold outreach. It could be call, text, email, direct mail. Those are like the 3 buckets, right? Just about anything we do in this business will fall into one of any client you pick up is going to fall into one of those 3 buckets in some form or fashion. Anyway, that's not the point of today's call, but I've just been trying to crystallize and get clear about what that looks like. This strategy that I'm using is outbound, but it's not me picking up the phone and calling them all, though ideally you do need to talk to them on the phone, okay, at some point. But it's me using email and text to get the hand raisers so I can get them on a call, so I can make them an offer so that we can proceed in some form or fashion. It's outbound. Outbound. I'm following this flow. And so what I did was I built a list of vacant landowners using PropStream. By the way, the guest that I teased, it's Burton with PropStream. Next week, he's going to come on and show you how you can find cash buyers and other buyer pools with PropStream. We're going to talk about other ways to find who are the active buyers as well, but we're going to focus on that. Different topic, though. This is how I found sellers. And so I used PropStream to build a list of all the vacant landowners in Perry County, which is just north of me, with a parcel size of a certain, I don't have to guess. I'll grab it here. Oh, you know what? I can't do that. I'm sorry. I don't want this thing to get torn down. I want this one to be able to be posted to YouTube. So it was Perry County, vacant land. And again, if you want to see exactly, like, the only thing that's about what I'm talking about right now, then the replay from July 9th is like the filters, right? But the process is exactly the same, okay? In that example, I was filtering for tired landlords. Right now, I'm talking about filtering for vacant land owners. So I went Perry County. I think it was half to 5 acres, a half an acre to 5 acres. Maybe it was 10 acres. It doesn't matter. That bucket, I wanted it to be individually owned. I didn't want corporations or trusts or like mixed ownership. I just wanted to know James Brown owns this vacant land, okay? And I wanted them to own it for 10 plus years. I think that might have been it, honestly. It was like, there wasn't a lot of filters. There were other strategies. I built a list earlier this week of distressed sellers, and I shared that on our 5 weeks to 5 listings challenge. and that required a little bit more clicking and filtering and this, that, and the other thing. This one was pretty easy and open. So I built that list. I skip traced it through PropStream to get email and phone numbers. I used AI to clean up the data because I get a CSV file that's just got a bunch of name, numbers, and whatever. I have a 3-prompt process with AI. Scrub out the DNC numbers is number 1. Move the clean numbers from cell 2, 3, 4 into 1. So I got more good, clean cell phone numbers in column 1. And that's it, really. I take that clean list and I put it into my ProEdge CRM, which is my cold outreach engine. Okay. That's my cold outreach engine. It's the one I'm using that for this type of cold outreach. These are people that they're not in my regular database. They're not in my warm outreach database. And I scheduled a text and an email to be dripped out, 1 a minute, every minute between 8:30 and 4:30 until it runs out of people to send it to. So that's how I got the hand raiser. So Susan replies to, let me pull, I'm not going to share my screen because it'll show the sensitive data, but I'll read you what the script is or was and what happened from there. So Susan replied to a text. I get way more responses to texts than to the email portion of this, but the email costs next to nothing. So I send that as well because I do get some responses to email, just not a ton. Hey, Susan, and I had a grammatical error in this, which I know is shocking to all of you who normally attend here because I never do that. I've since cleaned up the grammatical error. So what it actually read was, I'm going to read it with the error. Hey, Susan, would you considering selling your vacant land at, and the identifier of the land, in this case it was Heritage Hills, to a private client of mine, thanks. Her reply was simply yes. And then she called like 20 minutes later because I was busy with an appointment or something like that. This was sent on August 5th. So what was that? I guess that was Tuesday or Wednesday of last week. Anyway, she said yes. Then she called. I couldn't answer because I think I was on the other line, or I don't know. We might have been on this Zoom for all I know. And then she said, feel free to contact me. She texted that. Thanks, Susan, was my reply. Thanks, Susan. I'll give you a buzz back in a few. So I called her exactly an hour after she had initially called me. And I was just asking questions, being curious. She was pretty forthcoming. I had the data that I was able to find on the parcel up while we were having the conversation. She mentioned that she had previously, and I knew this because I could see it, she had previously listed a number of years ago, wasn't thrilled with the listing agent she had then. Not that she wasn't like super negative, but it was like, I don't really think she did much to try and sell it, yada, yada. And I let her know. I don't know that. So she threw out her net number to me. Her net number is 32,000. She wants to net 32,000 on the property. So I gleaned all of that from our conversation. It was, let me see if it says here how long the conversation was. I can't see how long the combo was, but it was a couple minutes at most. So I'm racking my brain. What am I going to do with this? So I heard this quote earlier in the week. I shared it on our Monday 5 weeks session. I'll share it here now as well. Stop wondering what if and just worry about what's next. Stop wondering what if and just worry about what's next. Literally, I started this campaign and I'm like, I don't know what I'll do with the hand raisers, but I'll figure it out along the way. I'll just try something. So the number she wanted and the fact that there's physical access, there's legal access, but it's like a gravel road. You could theoretically build on it, whatever. But I was like, I'm going to throw her some kind of proposal. I'm going to put something out to her. So what I decided was I would create a Loom video with a proposal. Loom personal video messages. I say this every couple of weeks. If you're not doing them, you're missing out. You're losing the game. Personal video messages, whether you use, I don't care if you use Loom. I don't have an affiliate link with Loom, and I could care less. Whether you use Loom or Dub or BombBomb or some other tool, because there's probably other ones, I could care less. But if you're not sending personal video messages as part of your process of getting someone from maybe to yes, you're missing out. You're just losing business, period. And here's why. There's so many reasons why I love it, but it's an efficient way for you to control the narrative and communicate what you're offering to someone. So I recorded for her what ended up being between 4 and 5 minutes. I know it was less than 5 minutes. A Loom video with my proposal to her. And so my proposal was, and I'll share the Loom video. Here's what I'll do. For those that are interested, the Google Doc that I'll put with the examples and links, etc., I'll include in that Google Doc my Loom video and the subsequent PDF proposal that I sent to her, so you guys can model it if you like. If you're watching this after the fact, drop a comment or just reach out to me and I'll send you the document. It was a 4 to 5 minute Loom presentation, and in it, I communicated what I was willing to offer to her and how I was planning, or I am planning, to get the property sold. So because one of the things that she mentioned was that the agent really didn't do, at least as far as she was concerned, the agent really didn't do much. She put it in the MLS and just hoped to find a buyer. So I communicated what we do, whether it's a vacant land listing or a traditional listing, what we do to get it sold. So here are the things, some of the things that I included in there. And none of these are earth-shattering amongst us, but to many consumers, they don't know. So the first thing I mentioned was reverse prospecting. So I said, the very first thing we do as soon as the property is live is I will email, text, and call every single agent that has a client who your property fits their buy box. In other words, your property fits the search criteria they're looking for properties. And as silly as that sounds, most agents don't actually do that. How do I know? Because I have lots of buyers set up in my MLS, and I get very few, other than an occasional email of other agents sending me that information. So that was the first thing that I communicated. I let her know that we would also be marketing the property to all of the surrounding neighbors through direct mail and digitally, because we've found in selling vacant land that there are a lot of examples of neighbors that will buy the property because they don't want someone else to own it. They're literally it's like they're buying it in spite, right? They don't want to have someone that they don't know or have control over owning the property. I also let her know that we would be marketing directly to the land buyers, the people that are actively buying land within a 5 to 10 mile radius of her property as well. I communicated what I was going to do proactively to make sure that we're marketing, that we're making it known to every potential interested party it's available. For that, and here's why, like, for those of you wondering, like, she wants $32,000. Is this worth my time? Okay. So here's what I decided for me, because I was like, that was going through my head. It's 32, she wants 32,000. So I just said, look, my fee to do all this is $5,000. I'll do all of this for $5,000. My hard costs. Oh, one other big one that I mentioned in the marketing part of it, because the pictures from the previous listing were terrible. They were awful. I said, look, I'll pay for professional photos and video with drone photography. I got those back today. They look great. Okay. That cost me $180. The rest of my marketing, all in, I will allocate probably 10% of the $5,000 to the marketing of that. And for that, I proposed $50,000 as our list price. I can justify that with comparable sales. I've also baked in the fact that we can still get her net 32 even if we don't get the asking price. Okay. So I put that in a Loom video and I sent it to her. I emailed it and texted it because I wanted to make sure that she actually got the video and watched it. I could see from Loom, because Loom notifies you when someone watches it, I could see she watched it within, I won't say minutes of receiving it, but certainly hours of receiving it. I did not hear back from her that day that she watched it. So I reached back out the next morning and she said, I got everything. And actually, I'll say exactly what she said. I said, so I sent it to her on the 7th. I said, good morning, Susan. I emailed you a video proposal as well as a PDF proposal. Let me know when I can send over the listing docs. Smiley face. Okay. So I've been weaving in more just like emojis and smiley, whatever. I don't know. Let's have some fun, right? Be playful. She must have called me. I forgot this part. She must have called me because that's the end of our text string. But she called me and said, hey, send it over. I used SkySlope to draft up what I need. It took me literally 10 minutes. Sent over through SkySlope for digital signing, and I got it back. So the 8th was Friday. I got the signed docs back Saturday, I think in the morning, but at some point on the 9th. One of the things that I do anytime I send documents for digital signing is I sent her a Loom video of those documents as well. So I sent her a Loom video with my proposal, and then I sent her a Loom explanation of the documents. Now, something that happened that was a big aha for me, or aha reminder, is during this time, I also sent a video proposal to another person, hand raiser, Steven, the guy that I mentioned that is now ready or near ready to list a buildable parcel of land that's already perked and has a driveway, et cetera, with me and potentially his 2-unit. I sent him a Loom video explaining, and he said, I'm not watching that. I'm not clicking a link in my text messages to tell me to watch a video. And I can assume from my conversation with him and from that reply, it probably just showed as a link and not the actual preview of that would have my face and his name, etc. And so he was very leery of doing that, which I understand, right? You get a text message that says, hey, watch this video. Who knows what that'll be, right? So that got my gears turning. And he further then said, then he sent another text and said something like, call me old-fashioned, but I would rather have something in writing. So here's what I did. I took the transcript of that Loom video. I fired up manus. I think it's manus.im. It's one of my favorite AI platforms. And I said, here's a transcript. This part I think I can show without having it be problematic. Let me pull it up and I'll show what we got here. The exact prompting and process. Hold on. I grabbed the transcript from Loom. Loom gives you a transcript. What happened to it? Where'd it go? Yeah. I copied the transcript. I pasted it. I pasted it into, so I did new task. Okay. And I pasted in the transcript and I prompted it with this. Can you take the transcript of this Loom video I shot for Susan Conti about selling her 1-acre parcel of land in Ickesburg, Pennsylvania, and turn it into a short PDF proposal? And it spit out this PDF proposal. Now, this was Susan. Susan actually didn't ask me for it, but Steven wanted it, so I thought I might as well. It took me all of 3 seconds to ask for it to do that. And it spit out, here's the comprehensive marketing strategy. There's a little executive summary. The pricing strategy. That's pretty good. So I sent that to Steven, and that and him Googling me is what has him ready to potentially give me multiple listings. So that was the end-to-end process. I've had 2 phone conversations with Susan, and that's it. I've not met her in person. I've not had to jump through a bunch of hoops, etc. And while I fully acknowledge you may not be excited by taking vacant land listings, I'm telling you that model can work exactly the same regardless of what type of property or listing it is. Now, if you can meet someone in person, obviously meet them in person. But Susan lives in a ritzy part of Philadelphia at this point. I am not going to drive to Philadelphia to get Susan to sign listing agreement for her vacant land up here in Perry County, and she doesn't want to come here to do it either, right? Where applicable, find ways to leverage technology and get creative with what you're offering. And also, if you have doubt about wanting the business, make an offer that gets you excited. Like $5,000, I'll do it for $5,000. Especially now because I have my next settlement, I'll have capped, and I keep 100%. So I don't even have a split on the $5,000. Now I'll have my marketing costs and a little bit other incidentals, but I'll take those. And so now it has me creatively thinking. So I have another one, same exact flow, cold outreach, hand raiser, did proposal. The guy says, I think I'm interested. His net number was 100. I looked it up. I think we could sell it for at least 125. I'm going to pitch him 10. I want here. And what I put in, so I think what made it an easy yes for Susan is I put in my listing agreement, I won't bother you with any offers unless they net you at least the 32,000 you told me you want to net. Now, if I only get something that nets her less, I'll probably say, hey, Susan, I told you I wouldn't bother you with anything that nets you less than that. We got one less than that. Do you want to see it? Or should I just tell them to pound sand? We need to be at this number or don't bother me. So there was risk reversal. I was presenting myself differently. I made it very clear there's no cost or obligation. I also make it clear to all my clients that you can cancel anytime, 24 hours notice, no harm, no foul, etc. Am I taking a little bit of a risk? Yeah, the pictures, the company that I use for the drone video and pictures, it was they charged me $175 for that. But I want to sell more of those parcels. So the more case studies and examples I have of that, the better. So for me, I'm like, it's just part of the deal. It's part of me growing that arm of my business and my brand for that business, or at least that aspect of the business. How do you know that she doesn't know others that want to sell? She might be a great lead source. Which one are we talking about? I can't remember. Susan or somebody else? Thank you for those that were being of help and service to others in the chat, both to Joan's question and some of the other questions. And Julian, I'd be happy to get with you on the thanks newsletter process. Any other questions or thoughts related to that? Can you put vacant land in iList? Do you have a private buyer for vacant land? I don't think anything will populate if you put in vacant land in iList unless it has a physical street address. But it's also, what you might get is the values, but you won't get cash buyers. You won't get the offers because none of them will buy vacant land. But you asked, do you have a private buyer for vacant land? So here's the interesting thing. There are companies that will fund those transactions, but it's got to be a good deal. So it's not the purpose of this today per se, but one of the things that I have to do immediately after this is send a purchase agreement to one of the hand raisers from that same campaign who replied. I replied, and actually, this is really good. I need to double down on this one thing. But I was looking at it and I was confused because depending on where I pulled up the data, one place was showing it that the property showed up this place on the map. And then another one, it was showing up on this place on the map. So I was like, hey, David, do you have a couple minutes for a quick chat? I'm getting conflicting information. I'm not even 100% certain where this parcel is because if I look it up here, it shows there, blah, blah, blah. And so I have a conversation and I ask him, super nice guy. I ask him like, hey, what's your number on this? What would you take on it? And the number he threw out, I was like, it was so small that I was like, do I try and negotiate him? I'm not even sure what to do with this, but I'm buying it. I'm sending him a purchase agreement. I'm going to buy it. I know land well enough that like his number is. So in the moment, I was like, I think you're really being reasonable there. And I really appreciate that. I'm going to take a closer look at it this afternoon. But I think we'd be ready to do a deal at that number with you. It was hard for me because I know that in those scenarios, if you don't push back a little bit, because when you're the one on the other side and you throw out a number and the person just takes it, you're like, crap, I should have offered less. So I was fighting that and thinking, should I really offer him whatever, 25% less just to give the give and take? But he was such a nice guy and it was so I didn't do that. I am going to, the way I'm going to position it is, hey, a little bit of negotiating is we just need some time to make sure there's nothing funky on the title and this, that, and the other thing. So I'm going to negotiate a little bit, but not on his price because it's so good that I think, whatever. I'll let you guys know what happens, but I'm pretty confident I'm going to do really well on that by literally just taking it down myself, getting a physical address assigned to it, and then popping it in the MLS with drone video and photo on it. The point that I want to hammer, though, is be patient and not overly hungry. if you're going to do this. If you're going to do cold outreach, like I'm describing here, if you come off desperate or commission breathy, right? I think you're only hurting yourself. So be patient with the process. And for example, when they say yes, the flow that I'm following now is as follows. Basically, hey, awesome, thanks for that. I'm going to take a closer look at this, and I'll follow up with you this afternoon, or worst case scenario, tomorrow morning with a proposal. And then what I'm going to do is, because I just started doing this, but all of the best opportunities, because I have a bunch of these, I have 7 that I have to do proposals for this afternoon. They all have been best when I go and say, hey, I took a closer look. Do you have a couple minutes for a quick chat just so I can make sure that we've got all the information and details right on this thing? Either that, or they just picked up the phone and called me, and I have a conversation, and I can play the curious, inquisitive, interested party with them. But if you do that too fast, I think it actually can work against you, right? I'm not saying string it out for days, but if they reply yes and you pick up the phone and call them, you're probably that's like when you go to the used car lot and you get out of your car and you're like swarmed by a car salesman. You're like, no, we're just looking, right? So if that's essentially what it feels like. If you send out basically a marketing message and you get a hand raiser and you're immediately like chasing them, it changes the dynamic too fast, right? You want to bring them in slowly, get them moving down a slippery slope, get them interested, get them thinking about what they would do with the money or the funds or things of that nature. That's the slight little tweak that I've been making to the cold outreach of just being patient, taking people through a multiple step process. Because the other thing that does is it creates micro commitments, right? And the more they tell you about the property, the more if you can ask them, hey, do you by chance have a survey on this thing or photo? If it was a residential listing, do you have any recent photos that would give me a better idea of the condition, things of that nature? Like when you get them involved and investing time in the process, you're way more likely to get the business. On the vacant land, find builders and developers. They will jump and take it off your hands immediately if the lot is right. Could not agree more, Shay. Could not agree more. And also, we'll be able to unpack that at least on some level next week on the mastermind, because we're going to be talking about cash buyers. And a lot of the corporations that are the cash buyers buying, whether it is vacant land or traditionally, they're builders, developers, investors. So 100%. Reynaldo, would you take in consideration having Zoom meetings with a FSBO seller versus in person instead of driving for 2 hours just to preview to look at a property? Freaking lootly. Do not drive 2 hours just to preview a FSBO. Absolutely not. Here's what I would do with them in particular. Instead of the script that I've been using and recommending, which is, I don't even know it offhand, but it's something along the lines, hey, James, this is Josh with eXp Realty. I have an out-of-state private client that is interested in your property at blank address. And do I ask, is it still available? James, do you remember? Is it still available? Whatever. I would go with this. Basically, I would ask for permission to present them with an offer. And then I would, if they're open to that, then I would present that with them, and I would use the Zoom meeting or a phone call meeting as the next step if they would like to explore in more detail. But I would not invest that amount of time. The only way I would do something like that is, and I'm going to reference a resource that James recommended to me over the weekend, a book called The Full Fee Agent. The Full Fee Agent. I forget I know that the co-author is, what's his last name? Voss. What's his first name?
Voss. I think Steve Solis.
And Chris Voss. Chris Voss is Never Split the Difference. Best-selling, that's a New York Times bestseller. Anyway, here's the gist of the book for me, is that I broke it down pretty well, I felt like, on Monday. But if you're going to look at a property, you're either the favorite or the fool, or one of the fools, meaning they likely already know or have a favorite in mind to help them particularly on a listing appointment, to help them with the sale. And if you're not confident you're the favorite, you're the fool or one of the fools, and you've got a very low chance of being able to flip that in your favor. Does that mean you shouldn't try to? You can make that decision for yourself, but I sure as heck would not drive 2 hours if I didn't already know that I was the favorite. In other words, I'll drive the 2 hours if I know that it's my listing to lose, as long as I don't screw up in person having this conversation with them. Otherwise, no way. Use the phone, use Loom, use Zoom, and don't waste your drive time on something that may have a very low chance of success. That's my 2 cents anyway.
I'd add to, with a FSBO, they are their own favorite.
Yeah.
Every agent is the fool until.
I would say that in communicating with for sale by owners, there is a certain percentage of them, at least that I've talked to in the last few months, that they already know, even before they put it on Zillow for sale by owner, who their favorite is if they can't sell it themselves. Not all of them, but some percentage, 10, 20, 25%. It may be the person that sold them the house. It could be the person that's, if someone is good about farming their neighborhood. I have had a certain percentage of those for sale by owner sellers that they're going to give it 2, 3, 4 weeks to try and sell it themselves, and they've already decided who their favorite is if or when they're unsuccessful. And then there's 75, 80, 90% of them that are, James is 100% right. They're their own favorite because they think, this is easy. Just put a sign in the yard and throw it on Zillow. Any other questions or comments? Or Anna, I'm confused. You're messaging them. You have a private buyer. Then you send proposal to list it. How do you pivot? Thank you for asking that because I didn't really clarify that. I will look for the reason why to pivot. And the pivot has been easy in these because they're asking retail. And my private buyer, the person in this scenario that I'm using as my private buyer is a custom home builder that I have a good relationship with in the area, and I know his buy box. And the guy who's asking for 100, he would pay 75 for it. He's not going to pay 100. Somebody might pay 125 though. Like I can see that there were some retail sales, that did pay that. So my pivot is, here's why my guy isn't interested. He'd probably be offering you 70, maybe 75 grand. But here's what we could do, or here's what we can do to get that number that you threw out, which is how I pivot any of them. Hey, look, here's the initial preliminary offer from XYZ, whether it's Quick Buy or Zoom Casa. I don't necessarily refer to them, but here's the best preliminary offer we got back from our out-of-state private clients. But I looked at the property, I looked at the comps. I think we can do much better for you on that. Here would be my proposal. If you're open to putting the property on the open market and let me get you net you even more or whatever, right? Just look for the reason why to pivot and have no problem anchoring that other number, meaning this is where we'd probably need to be at for it to make sense for my private client, which maybe it makes sense for you if you do need to get this thing sold quickly, but you told me you wouldn't take any less than 100. Here's how we could get you that number if you are open to allowing me that opportunity. And oh, by the way, there's no cost or obligation. I'll do all the heavy lifting. And I'll only bother you if we've got an offer or when we've got an offer that'll net you the number you told me you need. My FSBO has been on the market for 90 plus days and only $100,000 over price. I'm going back to the phone video. I would just go back to don't even bother, right? Just find other more lower hanging fruit. Here's the beautiful thing that I have found through, I don't know that there's been a 6-month period, maybe it's not quite 6 months, a 4-month period ever at me in my personal production as focused as I have been over that window. And because of that, I have so much opportunity that when people are unrealistic, unreasonable, ignorant, whatever, I just laugh because I'm like, I got plenty of more. So here's a good one, and we'll end on this unless we have something else. One of the cold outreach texts yesterday, a guy replies and says something to the effect, I deleted it. And Julian, I see your hand raised. I won't forget about you. He said something like, he basically told me, to send him $1,000 on Zelle, and then we can have a conversation or something along those lines. And I was just like, and I just didn't respond because I was like, do I even want to respond? If I respond, am I just pulling this person in? So I didn't respond. And a couple hours later, he was like, I guess that's a no. And I just said, yeah, I have more than enough I have more than enough opportunities that we're working on right now that I almost put this, but I didn't. And we just make it a policy not to negotiate with terrorists. But I didn't say that. I didn't say that because I didn't want to, whatever. But that's what I was thinking the whole time. And I just said, hey, whatever. And he said, well, yeah, then don't bother me. And I was like, whatever. Like, sometimes you're not going to avoid that, especially like if you're doing cold outreach, some people are going to be mad. And honestly, if that's not happening, you're probably not doing enough of it. Like because as many positive responses, I get twice as many negative. Delete, mark them DND, whatever. There's plenty of people that are reasonable and open to a conversation and entertaining whatever it is we may have to offer. Julian.
Hey, Josh. Honestly, I think if you had responded with, we don't negotiate terrorists, it probably would have landed good with that guy.
It probably would have, but I was just like, yeah, I just chose the high road. I said something snarky to one of them. Oh, this was great too. Sorry. So I can't even remember what they said, but basically they were lining up the joke with the answer of Joe Mama, and I knew what they were doing, so I like teed it up for him, and we had like a good laugh through text. Right. So if there was a way for me to do it with that guy, I would have done that. But I just decided in that scenario to let it go. That's probably not why you had your hand raised, though.
No. So speaking of the driving the 2 hours to FSBO, and made a smart filter for every city that's close to me that I'm the drive to. So like within a half an hour's range of me, and then a bunch of other filters for expireds to that text that I have a private client. And yesterday I sent out only 8, my first 8 that I've sent, and I had somebody say, sure, I want mine. So I'm going to go, and it's tomorrow at 3. And so I'm curious. I know I looked at the house, it's turnkey. Probably with asking too much. I haven't even dug into the numbers yet, but it's close. So I get a belly to belly with them. I really like, and I really want to work. So I'm going to go to the appointment. Obviously, an island's offer probably not going to make sense for them. I know you touched on the transition, but on a house. So in this scenario, you're going to show up to this house. How would you position yourself and then transition into that listing on that?
I would do, and I'm sure you're going to do this, but I would do all the research up front so that, or you have a good idea, a number that you can confidently say, or that you would be confident in them getting on the property. And actually, as I'm saying that, a lot of times I don't even know. So what I will often position is this point. Look, you may be looking for someone that tells you that I can sell it for this number. And the reality is, I don't decide that. You don't decide it. The market decides it. And my job is to do everything humanly possible to get you the greatest amount of exposure, activity, showings, and offers. And when we do that, in the vast majority of the time, we can establish what the real highest and best market value is for the property. And if that's something you want help with, we call that our 7-day stress-free home sale program, and I can walk you through that. Now, you led with the private client, so we got to pivot. So how do we pivot? Whether you go and you do the in-person scenario, or for those of you listening, maybe you're in a place where there's a lot of traffic, whatever. Like, I think you can do this virtually with a Loom or with a Zoom, because especially with expireds, especially if it's a recent expired, you've got recent pictures of the property, right? And so I will just look for where the miss was. I would lean on our process, a unique and different and better way of getting it sold. Specifically on the pivot, I would tell them, hey, look, here's the best number that I got back from, we actually have 2, or maybe you, Julian, you may also have Homeward. I think Homeward, people are speaking very highly of Homeward. I don't have that in my market. But
we have a buyer.
Yeah, so look, I'm just going to shoot you straight. The best net number from our, whether you want to call it pool of institutional buyers or out-of-state private client, whatever you want to refer to it as, came back at this number. Obviously, like, that's probably not going to work for you. And I totally get it. I wouldn't take that either. Here's what I would do if I were in your situation. and I needed to sell, but I also wanted to make sure that I got the highest price with the fastest way possible with the most amount of convenience, blah, 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 blah. That's how I would pivot it, and I would disassociate yourself with the private client number. Hey, look, I know this probably isn't going to work for you. It wouldn't work for me if I was in your shoes as well. But I'm throwing it out there because whatever. That's how we started this conversation, and we work with this client, and they are very actively looking for however you want to make that pivot. Just something that pops up in my mind is if you end up having a lot of these and they're not productive, you probably want to add friction into the situation, and the friction might be simply a quick phone conversation to gauge, do they really need to sell, or are they just whatever? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because
So on the text message, he responds, sure, great. And then just try to push for a quick phone conversation just to grab a few more details before we come.
I would, and to me, there's not a blanket answer, because for people listening to, if you're not busy, if you don't have a lot of activity, in my opinion, you should go on that, even if you're the fool, because it's practice. And the more you have real world conversations, whether it be on the phone or in person, with actual consumers, the more confident and competent you will be in yourself. But if you're busy, like me right now, I am adding in friction as much as I can, because I only want the ones that really, they're serious, or they have a real need, not the ones that are just like, whatever. And I'll tie this back to our 5-week challenge. I started the challenge off with activities that I knew would create conversations and the opportunities to get reps and practice, even though I don't like those. Like, I don't like for sale by owners and fresh expireds. I don't, because it's a red ocean. I know that everybody is chasing them. So I'm just another person chasing them. Now, if I can have a different conversation, which is what you're doing, I've got a better chance to at least cut through the noise a little. But I would much rather be the favorite or be the one playing in the blue ocean, where I'm not fighting against 13 other realtors who, and even I feel bad a little bit, because like I've now had several people who they're going after for sale by owners, and they're like, I think someone else in my market is using your exact script, because I'm the third person today that sent that, or they told me I was the third person that texted them this message today. That's the thing with a lot of this stuff and scripting, is it's a good starting point. It can get you in motion, but once you're busy and once you've got a deep pipeline, you're going to look for ways to add friction in so that you're spending your time on, I won't call it more guaranteed return, but a higher return with a higher likelihood. I didn't know that's where we were going to go, and I don't know if I helped you there, Julian, but I would look for, look, if you promise them an offer from a private client, you got to give it to them. But I would disassociate yourself from that number, and I would say, hey, look, if I was you, there's no way I would take this number. Here's what I would do if I were in your shoes. And then the more evidence you have, the better. But it's got to be real evidence. And by evidence, like I now have a 28-page or 26-page stack of MLS printouts that literally just have starting price. It's the full MLS, but I have it circled, starting price, sold price, days on market, and I can just go and show like, hey, I'm not full of whatever, like this is what we do. Boom. If you don't have that evidence, you have to make it, if you don't have evidence, a stack of evidence like that, then you have to make the conversation different and unique, and you have to reverse the risk on them. So I would say that before I had this stack of evidence, here was what I would say. Look, all you're committing to me is X number of days, right? You're committing 10 to 17 days where we're going to have it coming soon, and we're going to show it for a weekend, and we're going to have offers. And if you don't like any of those offers, you're not obligated to take any of them, and you can fire me the next day. And not a one did that.
Offer platform.
What's that?
I said, and you're referring to doing.
No, honestly, I've been doing those without the platform. I've used a platform like that. I've never actually used the iList platform for the bidding function yet. I need to. I want to. I used another similar platform years ago, and in my conservative Pennsylvania market, like it just became more of a problem for me than anything because agents were agents,
Yeah.
for lack of a better term. So I would end up having all this other stuff. So I just create a scenario where I know I have, the more I talk, the more things become clear sometimes, especially if I don't have the time to prepare. But here's another way you can pivot or position those other offers. Look, we're going to put these in our back pocket, Mr. and Mrs. Seller. We have them as a backup plan, and we're going to use them as part of our marketing when we put this on the open market, because we already know we have multiple offers on the property. And so all we're going to try and do is beat those. And how much we need to beat those by, it might be, we might have to crush them depending on what they're expecting and maybe what the property is legitimately going to bring on the open market. But that's another way that I use those. Hey, look, I get it. There's no reason for you to proceed with one of these, but we are going to use them, and we're going to try and beat those offers on the open market. And so I will use them as part of that both presentation process and in my marketing. So for me, as soon as I get one real offer on my listings, I just say we have multiple offers, because I've got a written one on the standard Pennsylvania agreement of sale, but I also have these other two that are real offers. I know all I have to do is say the word and they'll send me the docs for it. I don't know. I hope some of this was helpful to Julian and others. Yeah, that's what I would do with that expired. Hey, these probably aren't going to work for you. Here's what I would propose to you if you were to let me help you with this sale. We're going to use these as a starting point, and we're going to try and beat them on the open market. And here's how we're going to do that.
Perfect.
And if you can find other ways to differentiate what you're going to do better, obviously lean on those as well. And it's hard to know because you don't know what sold them. But that's another reason to ask them to get them in person. You can dig on, how did we get here? Catch me up to speed. How have you been trying to sell this thing for 180 days and it hasn't sold? What happened? What's going on? Because then the more intel you can get from them, the more you can present or propose to them to solve their pain. So Susan, my actual case study from this, she gave me the ammunition for my proposal. Agent didn't really do anything. I could see that the picture sucked. And so I was intentionally addressing the things. Now, she didn't give me a ton of ammunition, let's say, but she gave me enough that I could specifically point to those things that we can help. Anyway, I hope that helps.
Yeah, I definitely. And appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, right on. Okay, we're way over the normal hour time block that I try to keep these to. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap up and remind everyone, next week we're going to be talking about how to find the active buyers in your market, like cash buyers, landlords, things of that nature, and some other. We've got a special guest, Burton from PropStream. We're going to use that, but I'll also mention some other ways and strategies that I've been playing with as far as that goes. 2 weeks from now, we are going to talk tools like Zapier and others to make your life a little bit easier, to leverage technology better, etc. And then 3 weeks from now, a new service that Thanks is offering for you to build a pipeline around the most likely to sell folks in your radius from all of that. Reynaldo asked, where can I find the recordings from I think you're talking about the 5 weeks. It's a 5 listings challenge. The recording of those are only available to folks that paid for the challenge. There was an enrollment fee, but you can hit me up, Reynaldo, shoot me a DM or text me, and I can let you know how you can get access to those if you'd like. The replay of this will be up and live on the channel, Josh Shanley Coaching YouTube channel, in the morning. And if you have any questions, you need any help, etc., please let me know. Otherwise, we hope to see everybody again next week. Same time, same place, same Zoom meeting link.